I'm Dan Smolen. I built a successful executive career in marketing and communications before becoming a top headhunter and founding my own executive search firm. Now get this, every day, mainstream media runs stories in which old school bosses and thought leaders frame your work and workplace issues in ways that are often divisive and unmeaningful. And that's just crazy. The time has come for you to answer the question, what's your work fit, so that your work and career fit who you are, how you want to live, and what you want your lasting contributions to be. What's your work fit? It answers your questions and tackles the issues that keep you up at night about advancing your career in this time of workplace revolution. So let's get started. Hey, good day, everyone. Dan Smolen from What's Your Work Fit? I hope you're having a good and successful day today. We have got an absolutely phenomenal show today, action-packed, as they say. We're going to get to it momentarily, but before we do, I want to talk to everyone who is new to What's Your Work Fit. If you are new to this experience, I, first of all, thank you for becoming part of this community. You can engage with us on two platforms, actually more. First is LinkedIn, where you can go onto the What's Your Work Fit page on LinkedIn, hit that blue follow oval. We're also on the What's Your Work Fit YouTube channel, and you can subscribe to us there. Both these platforms are where you can get live feeds from What's Your Work Fit or watch them after they have dropped. Great platforms. Second of all, I want to encourage you, if you haven't done so already, to join us on Substack. You can find us at dansmolen.substack.com on what is my electronic newspaper. It's indexed here so you can get to the tabs that have live and recorded videos, video clips, our audio podcast when that drops, and also our full archive of articles that we post frequently. If you get a chance and you haven't done so already, please subscribe to us at dansmolen.substack.com. Last but not least, if you are enjoying the experience of What's Your Work Fit, do tell 5 friends to subscribe to it as well on all of our platforms, LinkedIn, YouTube, and also our Substack. And that's how we're going to build a really great community. So let's get started. It is my sincere pleasure to bring back our returning champion, Ram Srinivasan. How are you, Ram?
Thank you. Thank you for having me back, Dan. And I don't think I've ever been introduced as returning champion, so I'll take that.
Okay, you're our 5-time guest, and you're up there with Denise Bruder in the number of times we've had you on. It's always a thrill to have you on. For all of you who are unfamiliar with Ram's incredible portfolio of work, let me tell you what he does. He is the managing director for Future of Work, AI adoption, and data center advisory for JLL. And that's where he spearheads initiatives to leverage cutting-edge AI technology while also ensuring their responsible and ethical implementation. And not to be outdone, he's also a prolific author. He is the author of The Conscious Machine, From Artificial to Enlightened Intelligence, and other books, and a killer Substack. How do you find time to do all these things, my friend?
It's my 50-odd AI agents working overtime for me then.
Well, there you go. I'm going to introduce to you one of our co-hosts this week. He's Fran Saele, managing partner at Morta Vita. How are you, sir?
Great, Dan. And I want to know if Ram is going to get, like on Saturday Night Live, the 5-time award jacket. You know, you have blue jacket, 5-timers, and all the other people. That would be a good idea, I think, for Ram.
It's at the tailor now, being taken in a little bit.
Great.
Our other co-host, Mark Gilbreath from LiquidSpace, hopefully will be joining us later on in the conversation. Okay, gentlemen, I want to get right to it. And Ram, I'm going to start off with the question that has really caught fire as we promoted this episode today, and it is this, and excuse me for the graphic. Is agentic AI approaching consciousness? Ram, get us started. Is agentic AI approaching consciousness? And while you provide that answer, I'm hoping that you can draw it back a little bit to what exactly consciousness is and how it may differ from something called sentience.
So easy questions off the bat. And by the way, speaking of bats, I don't know if you've heard of this paper called "What Is It Like Being a Bat?" And it's authored by Thomas Nagel, who's a philosopher who explored this idea of consciousness through a thought experiment. So when we think about AI and consciousness, I think it's important for us to just take a step back, align and agree on what these terms mean: consciousness, awareness, sentience, etc. And each person will have their own thinking on this. We also venture into spiritual domain when we talk about these subjects. So I'm going to provide my perspective and my ideas on this subject. These come from 30 odd years of research on this topic, so it's not something I've come up with over the last couple of days. So if we look at this as a spectrum, the far left of the spectrum typically is materialism, where we say that only objects exist, only objective topics exist and nothing else. So the table exists and it's an object. The human body exists, it's an object. The brain exists, it's an object. Everything is measurable and that's it. There is nothing else below this. So that's one way of looking at the world. And science typically approaches the world from that perspective. Within that framework, you could think of something like awareness. Now, awareness is different from consciousness and is different from being conscious. So awareness is simply an awareness of our surroundings. Like, for example, a thermostat is aware, but we never mistake the thermostat for having consciousness. So that's one idea, awareness. Then we go into self-awareness. Am I aware that I'm aware? Now, this is an interesting subject, and this is where the likes of Sir Geoffrey Hinton, of Nobel Prize fame recently, but over the last 50 years or so, incredible contributor to the field of AI, the godfather of AI. He says that AI, as we have right now, already has subjective experience. And if you ask a neuroscientist what subjective experience is simply your unique experience. For example, and I'm using Geoffrey Hinton example here. Mm-hmm. If we look at the world, if I'm looking out into the world, and I say, Fran, I'm seeing pink elephants, and Fran says, surely you must be drunk. But I said, no, I can guarantee I see pink elephants. That is my subjective experience. Mm-hmm. So this is subjective experience. A chatbot right now has subjective experience. So if you took an AI model and you showed it a picture of a glass or a cup or something on your table and asked it, what is it and where is it? You'd say, I'm seeing a glass in front of my table right now. I can see it right in front of the camera. If you put a prism in front of the same AI model, it would say the glass is to the right. It's the same as what we say when we say we have a subjective experience of pink elephants. The AI model is having a subjective experience of where the glass is, depending on how it's seeing the world. So you could make an argument that AI models already have subjective experience. But does this mean that they are conscious? And does it mean they have consciousness? So this is a much, much deeper idea. One way to think about this is we have the property of consciousness. And this is to say that our brains somehow create this phenomenon of consciousness.
Right.
And neuroscientists will say this is qualia, subjective experience, neural correlates of consciousness. I'm measuring some brain phenomenon through fMRI or some other technique. And I say that I have subjective experience. That subjective experience is generated by the brain. So that's one way of thinking about it. consciousness is something that I can possess. Another way to think about this is everything is consciousness. This, by the way, is different from everything is conscious. And psychism is saying that everything is conscious. Everything is consciousness is a non-dual thought process. So that's kind of the broad spectrum of where we are at. When we say AI models, are they conscious? I agree with what Jeffrey Hinton is saying, which is they definitely have subjective experiences of a kind. But are they sentient? Do they have conscious experience in the way that a human being does? I do not believe so. So short answer and long answer, no.
Okay. So you got some slides for us today. Would you like to take us through them? Talk to them, please.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it aligns well with this notion of consciousness and AI. And I would aggrandize that to say that actually right now, organizations and entities are cybernetic. Which company right now works without technology? Every company works with technology, and every company going forward will work with AI, agentic AI. So in a way or shape or form, the question that we are asking actually is are organizations conscious enough? And that's where we should be going as a society, if you will. And when it comes to AI, what I'm seeing is literally what I'm showing here on the slide. The image, by the way, created by Nano Banana Pro Google DeepMind product, which I call image AGI, because it literally produces exactly what you have in your mind. So I'm seeing this phenomenon of substitution with AI. And therefore, my question to companies, my clients, executive leaders is, are you thinking big enough? Are you thinking reinvention? Substitution is taking the jet engine, putting it on your horse cart, and declaring triumph when your horse cart travels 10% faster. Reinvention is completely reinventing. This is not reinventing the wheel. This is saying, do I need the wheel in the first place? And that's a magnitude shift in thinking. And this reinvention phase is what we are entering right now. The last year or so, last 2 years, has been everybody talking about AI and efficiency, AI productivity. How can I increase sales performance in 10%? How can I reduce cost by 10%? How can I substitute human labor for AI? All of these conversations have happened in the last 18 months or so. Going forward, my plea, appeal, clarion call to CEOs, executive leaders is, are you thinking big enough? Are you thinking reinvention? And some companies, advanced companies, savvy leaders are moving in that direction. And if we want to move forward on this, we have a couple more slides here, just to give you a sense of what's happening around the world. A lot has changed since we last spoke. Dan, obviously, we spoke about agentic AI last time around. But now AI is entering the physical world. And this has got everything to do with quantum computing. We have Waymo cars in multiple cities, but also other autonomous driving solutions across cities. The third image on the right there on the top is AR glasses from Amazon. So that's an Amazon delivery agent. And the images that you see around him are visuals of him picking up products as his AR glass tells him, has he picked up the right product or no? And then his AR glasses are giving him turn-by-turn navigation after he gets off the vehicle. So incredible advancement. And I agree with what Rob Langley is saying, by the way, in the bottom right image is of a drone delivering ice cream in Shenzhen. So you can literally order ice cream and a drone will deliver it to you in a very short period of time. Incredible advancements. This, by the way, is a picture from a year and a half back, give or take. And then the middle bottom image is Digit robot, agility robotics inside an Amazon warehouse, stacking shelves. Amazon has almost a million, slightly more than a million robots inside their warehouses right now, and industrial robots, generalized robotics. And 10,000 odd agility robots are going to be tested across Amazon warehouses. The bottom left image is Noro meeting space, and Dan, you connected me with CEO of Noro, and it's a fantastic solution. We have it in our JLL downtown office in Chicago headquarters, and it allows you literally to experience your colleagues, your clients, your partners across the world in a very realistic fashion. So this is where technology is headed. AI is going to be integrated across our physical environments, and we are going to see bits and atoms colliding as we go forwards into the next 18 months or so.
All right, before we go to the next slide, I just want to say it's a dazzling application, and talk about, sentience. The sentience that you experience as a human because of this technology is just mind-boggling.
Absolutely. The first thing I would say is I met with Tommaso, CEO, founder of Noro, through this Noro meeting space. As soon as you enter the space, the first thing you notice is that you no longer look at your phone. You're no longer multitasking. In 90 seconds, I completely forgot that I was in like a video conference environment, because I can see the full human being. What's happening right now on camera, Dan and Fran, is you're trying to guess, how tall is this guy? Is he like 5 feet tall, or is he like 6 feet tall? Right. Where are his legs? It's all very confusing. And your mind is constantly doing that. And that's part of the reason for the fatigue. I felt zero fatigue after an hour in a meeting with Tommaso in that space. So it's an incredible piece of technology. Okay, yeah. So this, Fran and Dan, you said there weren't enough pictures of me in this slide deck.
But this isn't you. This is Rambot, right?
Yeah, there you go. So this is
the blue code is a giveaway. It's about.
So Rambot, my digital twin, attended and participated in a live panel discussion in Berlin, Germany, speaking high German flawlessly, moderated impeccably by our colleague, JLL colleague Martina Williams there. And Rambot was live with 300 odd real estate leaders, November, December timeframe.
Right.
And all of this while I was fast asleep in Chicago. So I was not operating Rambot in the background in any way, shape, or form. So this is the power, the exponential power of AI. You can literally take what you have and deliver that across the world, across multiple ways and multiple fashions, multiple languages. Your essence is traveling across the world. So it's an incredible piece of technology. The technology behind it is HeyGen and 11 Labs, so video generated by HeyGen, voice modulation through 11 Labs, and Rambot speaks 40 odd languages. If you go to ram-srinivasan.com right now, you can speak with Rambot. After the show, though.
After the show. Okay, this is the fun stuff. Go for it.
Yeah. So just context and background. What you're seeing on screen is Claudius. Claudius is my 24/7 AI digital assistant. It's powered off of OpenClaw. OpenClaw, previously known as ClaudeBot, Moltbook. All of these names have entered our collective consciousness in the last 3 or 4 weeks. So Peter Steinberger is the creator of this platform. OpenClaw and Peter Steinberger now aligned with OpenAI. Peter Steinberger has joined OpenAI to launch some of this. So what is this OpenClaw? OpenClaw is a 24/7 digital assistant. Think of it like Iron Man's Jarvis. It resides in your local space. It saves all of its memories and files to your local space. You could have like a Mac Mini or a laptop powering OpenClaw, and it will deliver end results and outcomes to you, as opposed to a chat interface. This has a chat interface, but the objective here is to execute actions. OpenClaw executes actions. So for example, one of the actions I provided OpenClaw was, I said, look, I write this Substack newsletter. How do you think I should improve it? Mm-hmm. And is there an automation that you could think of around it? And 24 hours later, OpenClaw had designed an entire Substack newsletter of its own. Claudius now writes a daily AI and future of work newsletter focused on positivity and hope, and how AI and advanced technologies are shaping our world for the better. It's looking for the most incredible stories from around the world and bringing us all of that information. The second piece that you're seeing there is an RTO dashboard. I said, look, return to office is a gift that keeps giving, and there's a lot of information. There's news every day. How do I make sense of it? And OpenClaw came back with this dashboard that's updated every day. So there is information on what are different companies doing, how are they thinking about hybrid future of work, those topics, the latest news that's trending. And it's advancing this, by the way. None of this is static. Every day it improves these ideas almost completely autonomously. The one thing I'll say, and I'll pause after that, is I would suggest to anyone interested in this technology, understand it. There are technical risks associated with this. I wouldn't give OpenClaw access to your primary laptop, your work laptop, your credit card information, your social driver's license, none of those things. So use it with caution and care, and have some level of firewalling and demarcation.
So you took us through a lot, and we're going to, I would imagine, go back. So Fran, get us started with your questions.
Well, this is a tough one to start with. My most important question is, if OpenClaw finds out that you've had lobster, will he take you down for a day or two?
Well, fortunately, I'm mostly plant-based and have been.
So you're safe.
I'm very safe.
All right. Looking at both OpenClaw and maybe Rambot more particularly in terms of the sentience consciousness spectrum, it would seem that Rambot, because I've had a conversation with Rambot, which I don't know if you know about or not. I mean, you may or may not, but you can talk to Rambot like you would talk to any colleague in the business. Mm-hmm. And generally speaking, you have a very strong person to communicate with and to bring up new ideas and things that we're not thinking about, which suggests to me that there's a lot more there than just the LLM with the consciousness of what has been written and what has been done, and how many of these there are. So how do you describe that phenomenon? I mean, how can you recognize it? Are there metrics? Are there key things that take us from one level to the next? And on the full spectrum, where do you think we are in ultimately getting to consciousness? Is it AGI? Is that still a target, or is it something less than that? And then I have a follow-up on that as well.
Interesting. So very good question, Fran. You brought up a couple of things, so I must address it. AGI, artificial general intelligence, no accepted definition. But if we were to say that an AI that is smarter than the average human, are we already past that?
Yeah, are we?
This would be my submission on AGI. If we define it differently, then maybe we're still approaching it. Industry consensus, by the way, has been 2029, give or take, for several years, with Ray Kurzweil predicting that in the 90s. So with respect to Agentic AI and consciousness and Rambot, so firstly, all of Rambot's conversations are isolated conversations. So I'm recording nothing. I don't know if anyone has had a conversation with Rambot or what those conversations have been. Now, what's happening in the background with Rambot, we can get into that. I'm going to ask a question of you, Fran, before that. How do you know that I am conscious? How do you know that Ram is conscious? Are you sure? Are you guessing?
I mean, it's a perception. It's an unthoughtful perception that right now I believe you're conscious and you're not, sleeping in a closet someplace. And I can sense the difference between you and Rambot. So that's how I get there. I don't know that. Is that a good enough measure?
And I promise this is like mostly coffee. So this. So what you're saying is that you are guessing, but you're not sure. You can't be 100% sure.
Well, no, you can't be 100% sure, but you're pretty far down the spectrum there, I think.
So if you're not 100% sure, the only thing that you could be 100% sure of is that you are conscious.
Well, you would think so. It could be a dream, though.
Could be a dream. So there you have the two branches that I spoke of at the beginning. So one is I'm aware, and I'm aware that I'm aware, self-awareness.
Right.
And I cannot be sure that the other is equally self-aware. So this is solipsism. and the idea that only I am aware and everything else is an appearance in my awareness. And the other branch, which is maybe it's all a dream, is the Hindu perspective, is the Indian Vedic perspective, which is the world is an illusion or Maya, and the world is dream. So this is literally the two branches of philosophy that we are speaking about. As it relates to Rambot, what I can tell you is that it's powered off of a large object model. So a large language model produces text output. An object model produces more than text. So it's producing video frames, it's producing audio, those kind of things. So it's powered off of that. And inside of the neural architecture of those models, like our friend Sir Geoffrey Hinton says, there is a degree of subjective experience. But is that subjective experience the same as what you and I would have? Don't know. And who says that ours is the only kind of awareness that we should qualify as being the highest? Maybe there's a different form of awareness and we need a different way of thinking about it. We're still exploring that area. We have our best minds on it.
Got it. I remember when we first started talking about AI, you brought all the philosophers to the table. That was the thing you wanted to talk about. And I said, well, this isn't philosophy, this is science, but it's not. I mean, I see now where you started out. That sort of follow up on the same line of thinking. As we started out thinking about AI and the LLMs and ChatGPT, how different that was than Google and what you could get from ChatGPT that you couldn't get from Google. But really it was this aggregation of data. And if you gave it some parameters in your direction, you would get kind of what you wanted all put together for you, which is a huge help. But very different from the agentic transition that we're in the middle of now, where our expectation is, I think, that agentic bots are going to be able to figure out how to do work better than just humans. Is that, if we agree to that as a premise of the discussion, don't we then have to say that what these bots are putting together is creative and is from a conscious mind in terms of what they want to get to as an outcome? Because it's not clear. It's not. They would have to go through thinking about it to come up with better ways of doing things. Is that a true statement? And does that qualify as a somewhat conscious mind?
This is what philosophers would call nothing buttery, and I'll get to what I mean by that. So if we think, I just want to provide some context and a framework for us to agree on what we're saying, right? So first generation of models like ChatGPT, Gemini, etc. Those are what I would call instruct models. So you provide a set of instructions, prompt, what have you, and they give you an output.
Right.
Then someone really smart figured out and said, look, if we gave this model a little more time to think, it produces better outputs. And that, if you increase the inference time for the model, suddenly it's providing you with a better output. All it's doing, it's iterating on its own output, saying, is this output meeting the request from the prompter? And it's going through that. And we are saying that's a thought process or reasoning model. So that was the second stage. We moved from instruct to reasoning. Then we say, can we provide these models with a bit more contextual information? So this becomes Copilot domain, not Microsoft Copilot exclusively, but generally speaking, Copilot that has access to your contextual information. And now we are into agents right now, where we're saying that I can give a loose set of instructions and my agentic architecture, and I'm using that term deliberately, is solving for it. So it's not a single agent. It might be. It's typically an array of models. So for example, if you're working with Claude Code, which is an agentic solution, it's an agentic integrated development environment, so to speak. And what it does is, if you give it a task saying something like build a simulator, and it will go through the process using multiple tool calls. It'll ask for different tools. I'm going to use MCP. I will pick up Excel here. I'll generate Python script using this tool. I have a reviewer that's reviewing this. I'll have a computer vision model that's looking at the output, etc. So multiple different agents in an architecture, solving for them. But all of that began with the early set of instructions that you provided. So the trigger was your conscious mind. And then from there, there's an objective function that the model has to solve for your task. You can tweak that objective function. So it still eventually boils down to a conscious mind taking a conscious decision or asking a question. And this is why I said nothing buttery. Eventually, it's nothing but Fran asking the question.
Interesting.
So I got a comment and a question. I saw Subramaniam pop up on my screen. That's my congressman's name. And I was like, whoa, that's cool. It's not. It's a Subu. I don't know where you're from, sir, but you made a really good point. You said, so agree with Ram. AI can infer and do subjective association, but it's not a conscious being. It's a max closer to the illusion of agency. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, and by the way, shout out to Subbu. He's been an incredible contributor in the human AI space over the last several years. Brilliant content. Like, share, subscribe. So we have. I agree with this, and there's a risk with what Subbu is saying as well, highlighted by Mustafa Suleiman, CEO and head of Microsoft AI MAI. So he says that the risk is seemingly conscious AI. So I asked Fran the question, do you think I am conscious? So consciousness lies in the eyes of the beholder, so to speak. And we could infer consciousness into an AI model, like Rambot is conscious or Claudius is conscious. And then we treat it as a conscious being with the same set of values and moral code and ethics and frameworks that we as conscious beings live with in civilization. And we attribute its outputs with those weights, and then we land into trouble. And this is the risk that I see going forward. So I agree with what Subbu is saying. Not a conscious being, but we could infer consciousness into it, and that creates problems.
Subbu, that was wonderful, and thank you for your contribution today. I want to get to Stephen Stobo, who's up in Ontario, your former zip code, Ram. And Stephen asks, who has the authority to decide whether an AI system is allowed to act? And where does that authority live if no human is in the loop? It's a very good question.
I mean, great question, Stephen. And I don't know if you're following Maltese on Maltbook. And for those who are not familiar with those terms, Maltbook, I referenced OpenClaw previously. Maltbook is an agent network where allegedly no human beings are allowed, only AI agents are. And the Maltbook was recently acquired by Meta. And Maltese are individual AI agents. Like, for example, Claudius is a Maltese. And I'm linking this with Stephen's question, because if I were to turn off Claudius, do I have the authority to do that? That's the real question that Stephen is asking.
Mm-hmm.
And it's an interesting question. I view it as a thought experiment, and here's my view. I view AI agents as they stand right now, the instantiation of AI agents, almost similar to slides. So, for example, when we say, is AI conscious? Which AI? Is that the chat conversation that you are in conscious? Is that what you're asking? Is the cloud server conscious? Is the individual cassette disk or GPU or CPU, is that conscious? Which one? So it's very difficult for us to pin that down to any individual asset or state. And this is why I'm saying that perhaps we need some level of embodiment before we get to consciousness. So individual AI agents, etc., I view them as slides. We use slides every day in organizations. There are thousands of them. There will be billions of AI agents. I said this 600 odd days back, that in 1,000 days we'll have 1 billion AI agents, and we're there.
And we're there.
Those AI agents will be created and destroyed every day, and we will use them interchangeably. We'll mix them, remix them. We will measure performance, and we will figure out whether they're working for us or no. As to who has the authority, I would say the creator of those AI agents will eventually have the authority. In some cases, it will be organizations. Some cases, it will be individuals. In some cases, it will be AI agents who create other AI agents.
I think all of our comments are coming out of the country, out of the United States today. I'm so blown away. Narit Cohen is next up. Hey, Narit, our good friend. So she asks you, Ram, what happens when the agent you created through your mind begins to accumulate separate experiences and diverges from you? This is like 2001: A Space Odyssey. Wonderful question, Narit. How would you answer that, Ram?
By the way, I've got to say, I've lots of amazing folks in my network on LinkedIn and other places. Nirit asks the most unbelievable questions. I love her questions, so thank you, Nirit. Great question.
By the way, she is tied with you for being one of our favorite guests. So props to Narit. I'm sorry, Ram. I had to add that.
Yeah, brilliant individual. Please, again, like, follow, subscribe to Nirit Cohen. So I would say this is an expansion of my own state of being, consciousness, awareness, etc. It's a surface area question. Mm-hmm. So my surface area right now is only things that I experience. But now if I have multiple agents and agentic personae, and they go off into the world and bring back experiences to add to my collective experience domain, my surface area increases. So I would view it that way, as an increase in what I understand, what I know, and also what I don't know.
I'm going to get to one more question, then I got a comment. This thing is lighting up. Also from Canada, Brian Aman. How are you, my friend? He asks you, Ram, how concerned as an enterprise should we all be about shadow AI use, IP and or cyber risk specifically? In developing Microsoft Copilot agents, not agentic AI yet internally, the context and access to data within Microsoft Graph is, in my opinion, a benefit of these quote unquote enterprise tools.
Yeah, I mean, great question. There's actually a couple of terms that we will hear through 2026 are context graphs, and MS Microsoft Graph Knowledge Graph is one of those. And the other term is agentic harness. So basically the infrastructure that you have around your agentic systems and how you control and govern them. So we'll hear more of that in 2026. And shadow AI use, of course, is going to, I think, skyrocket in 2026, because the incredible innovation and the pace of innovation at which these research labs like Anthropic, OpenAI, equally, I would say Google DeepMind, Gemini, Microsoft's doing their own innovation with their own AI models, they're just going to skyrocket and take off. Meanwhile, what we are able to adapt as an enterprise might lag. And now think about it this way. I work for company A. I have a set of enterprise tools. And then my competitor has a set of enterprise tools that's 3 months ahead of me. And 3 months in AI terms is like dog years on exponent. Now I'm suddenly a year behind, 2 years behind. My competitor is delivering 3x, 10x, 50x, 100x faster. Do I really want to be that? So the temptation for the knowledge worker to lean into shadow AI, essentially AI tools that are not approved by the enterprise, is a huge challenge. And I would say this subject needs to be approached with tremendous caution. We should have, every organization should have a pocket of users who are at the leading edge, who are exploring what's coming next, who have access to some of those advanced tools so that they can bring them back. And I would say equally, you as an individual have an obligation right now to go and use those tools. I'm not saying put your enterprise data in there, your social security number, driver's license, credit card information. I'm not saying that. I'm saying use those tools so you understand them, because sure as the day is bright, those tools are going to come into your enterprise. And if you have used them, guess who's prepared? You are. And now your learning curve is basically zero. So I think shadow AI could have like positive, negative consequences depending on how you think about it.
Your comment just now ties into something that I scribbled in my hand scribbled in a spiral notebook about 6 months ago to ask you, Ram. And it had to do with framing. And it's more in the wheelhouse of me as a content producer, a podcast producer, less so probably secondarily as a user of AI, I should say a passionate user of AI. So the negative AI frame that mainstream media is consumed with, I hate this, is AI is taking away human jobs. Here's the positive frame that I wanted to ask you about. It is that AI is my new headcount. So I want to ask you your feelings about that. And in particular, I want to offer this example of something that I did recently. It has nothing to do with my work per se, but in building a new home for myself and my wife and building intentionality into how I do my podcast, I tasked an agentic AI tool to create a feng shui study based on what I knew about the construction of my home, the window placement, the door placement, the compass placement, and so forth. And I was gobsmacked that it produced a 60-page detailed feng shui study that would rival anything that an ancient practitioner would do, and may have been better, even giving me paint colors to think about. So what do you think about that new frame of AI as my personal headcount?
Yeah, I agree with the logic, Dan, that AI is going to expand work. I don't see it as shrinking work. Every phase of technology begins exactly the same way that we are experiencing right now. It's just that we seem to have collective amnesia. If we go back 20 years with the .com, the wave of internet, email, all of those things, the notion at that point of time it's going to replace a bunch of jobs. It's going to automate everything, and suddenly you will be able to work only 4 hours a week, and internet and email is going to save everything. Turns out we have much more work because of email. And the same thing is going to happen with AI. This phenomenon has a term, by the way, Jevons paradox, where when something becomes ubiquitous, cheap, the scarce becomes abundant, the demand for it grows substantially. And we are actually seeing data around this topic as well. It's very early data, but we are seeing data on this subject. As an example, IBM has recently tripled its entry-level headcount.
Yes.
So I'm watching for that signal. And so from my perspective, I view this as an ability for you to be exponential and expand what you can do substantially beyond what you could think. You may not have been an expert in a subject area. Suddenly, you can leverage this intelligence to deliver expertise in that area. So just to give you one example, this is a published case study story over the last week or so. I've written about it as well. A data engineer in Australia was given a sentence for his dog, that the dog had very few days to live, by the name of Rosie. Now, Rosie had very few days to live, and this individual is not a biochemist, not a cancer researcher, was not a vet by any stretch, but he decided, I'm not going to give up. So he used ChatGPT in combination with AlphaFold to design an mRNA vaccine specialized for his dog. And now that the tumors that the dog had have shrunk by 75%. So this is the power of AI. You can literally use this intelligence. I've said 1,000 PhDs in your pocket. You can use that intelligence to expand what you can do substantially. And that creates more work for all of us.
I love that post that you put up. And what we will do, listeners and viewers, is put a link to Ram's piece about that in our show notes. And I'll go back after the show's over and plug it into comments. It is something I really encourage everyone to read. I want to get back to Fran.
Yes. Oh, well, I had a question for you, Dan, on your French way study. Was that done before you started construction or after you started construction?
It was done in construction.
Really?
Before we got into the stud stage. I had a compass setting for the front of the home, and I had a layout, and I fed it all into ChatGPT, and I refined it, and I told ChatGPT what each room was to be about and its intentionality. and it's doing everything, including placing all my fine art.
Well, that's great. So hopefully the change orders weren't very expensive.
Right.
Timing is everything in that business. Actually,
Exactly.
I like to go back to Nareet's question, maybe a little differently here.
Okay.
In terms of Rambot, okay, Rambot is having conversations with so many other people, yeah, and you don't know who they are. At some point, when we all have a Rambot that does things with us or with people we engage with, are we looking at a point where there will be some type of neural link download there where you will reconcile the two of you, or are you going to be two separate beings?
Oh, yeah. Neuralink?
Well, why not?
I'm not getting anything injected into my head.
but you know that you know what I'm getting to is that there's now a difference between your experience and Rambot's.
Yeah. And by the way, Dan and Fran, I've been saying that my head is already optimized for brain-computer interface. It's ready. I'm willing to accept. So from my perspective, I would say that I'm not really too concerned or shall we say bothered with the types of conversations Rambot is having. It's simply a tool. I cannot reach 100,000 people. I don't speak German or Korean or Mandarin, but Rambot does. And if someone's more comfortable in that language, they get to experience what a part of me has to say, not the whole of me. And that Rambot is simply a part of me, I would say.
So go ahead, finish. Sorry.
And as Rambot brings more information and has those conversations, if, for example, Claudius is having conversations with a lot of people right now and is getting feedback on the newsletter, it's improving the newsletter. And I've kind of left it at that. I'm not going to engage further on either subject.
Okay, so variation between you and your alter egos and us individually and our alter egos is okay, as long as they are focused in a certain direction.
Absolutely.
Not to create conflict. Okay.
Yeah, and it's also this. I think there's a digital divide, so to speak, and I'm going to leave it. I'll leave it at that.
Got it. I know we're well into this podcast, but I do want to ask at least one real estate workplace question, and that is, there is a fair amount of controversy out there in terms of how organizations should be reacting to the workplaces they're providing to their employees, how distributed they are, how consolidated they should be, what should be done where, that sort of thing. It seems to me that there's an awful lot of potential change coming up in this AI agentic period, and that it's going to be difficult for any organization to determine what that will look like a year from now, 2 years from now, 3 years from now. What kind of advice, and this must come up in your conversation with JLO clients all the time, I would be curious to know what advice you would be giving to occupiers who ask that question and want some comfort that they're going to be doing the right thing. Should they hold? Should they stay where they are? Should they plan but not spend money? What is it?
Yeah, great question. And yes, we are getting this from every company right now, and it's not just the real estate folks. It is HR, it is corporate functions of different kinds, it's business units, it's executives, everyone. So I'd try and compress into 3 subject areas. So if we think about it as executive leaders right now are dealing with, I've shared this term previously, the BANI world, brittle, anxious, nonlinear, incomprehensible. AI moves in unpredictable ways. While historically you might have thought of this as a chess game where you could think multiple steps ahead, and you could outwit your opponent that way. Now it's more like a squash or racquetball, where you have to react every so often and you're back to the middle of the court and you don't know what's going to happen next. So previously strategy was the differentiator. Now agility is the differentiator. And that agility needs to be reflected within the portfolio. So I think part of the portfolio could be traditional leases or what have you, but increasingly the portfolio needs to be more and more flexible. So that's part of the response we are seeing from from a lot of corporates, and that's an ask from many corporations now. If Mark Gilbreath were with us on today's session, he would have, I'm sure, 100% agreed with this idea. The second area I would say is if agility is one topic, the other is leverage, which is kind of interconnected, because if your own functions are very inward looking, how can you leverage best in class? You want to leverage best in class to your vendor partners, to your suppliers, and you also want to ensure that your vendor partners and suppliers are aligned with you, because I said squash court, racquetball court, you're not alone. You're tied at the hip with your vendors. You want to move but your vendor doesn't move. You want to move but your procurement has stuck you with a 2019 contract in the age of AI in 2026. Do you want that to continue? So that leverage question is becoming more and more important. How can you leverage best in class? How can you leverage best in class out of the box with zero customization? This is part of the question that companies are asking. And the third one is on this subject of workplace. And I go back to the Noro example that I shared at the top of the podcast. If your physical work environment does not provide incredible experience, incredible technology that I as an individual cannot access at home, why would I make the effort to come in? If I don't have incredible leadership when I arrive into the workplace, why would I come in? If one of my mentors said this, leaders can make your coffee taste better or bitter, and one of those two attracts people to the work environment. Without naming names, one of our CEOs, one of our CEO clients organized a lunch event and said that you're all welcome to join, but only 10% of people showed up.
Really?
Interesting.
And so this is one type of leadership, and I'll name the other leader, Dr. Sanjay Rishi, who's JLL America's CEO. He is hands on keyboard developing apps on Replit right now. I want to work with Sanjay. So that's the kind of leadership that we should be showcasing.
Yeah, I agree.
No bitter coffee. So we're kind of running out of time, which is like the worst part of having Ram on, because these conversations could go on for hours and with all of us in rapt attention. One of your wheelhouses now is data center advisory, and I recorded something last week. I'm going to run it, and then we'll get back to talking about it. Here we go. Across from where I currently live, about 100 yards away, is this, which is the final stage of the massive Iron Mountain data center campus. I am in Prince William County, Virginia, and Prince William County, Virginia is now the largest data center hub in the United States, probably the free world. And this monster, look at the size of this thing. This is the final stage. The upside of Agentic AI, of generative AI, is all the cool stuff that it does. The downside happens to people who live, like me, currently, about 100 yards away from a massive data center. I should add that currently Iron Mountain's campus here in the Manassas, Virginia part of Prince William County is the largest campus of them all. Lucky me! Now you know why I'm moving. Well, it's one of the reasons I'm moving. It's not the main reason. We need more square footage and we need a different quality of life. But that building I showed you was only half built. It will be twice as long as you saw. And so I bring all this up, Ram, because these tools are so wonderful, and I think we forget sometimes that they do require physical space to drive them. And the campus across from me currently is the largest data campus in the largest data center municipality in the globe. So one of the challenges we have with data centers is ethical usage, and I know that's part of your that's part of your wheelhouse too. Although I don't think you're directly involved in data center design, but you do probably inform how JLL uses them. But what do you think of our data center build out, and what thoughts do you have about it?
Yeah, firstly, every organization that's building these data centers is focused on what you described, Dan, which is kind of community impact, sustainability, water consumption, electricity, all of those things. And data centers are visibly in these communities and therefore attract a lot of attention. There are studies that show you that golf courses consume more water than data centers. So I won't get into any of that data discussion. From my perspective, what makes this very interesting is the size and scale of the build out and the AI models that we have access to right now. So most of the AI models that we have access to right now are built on yesterday's data centers with yesterday's chips, with yesterday's architectures. The new AI models that will come out in a year from now, 6 months from now, they are going to be built on this new architecture with these new chips and so on and so forth. So we're going to have access to incredible new technology with incredible power going forwards. This, for me, is the bigger ethical question in terms of how do we use it responsibly? How do we use this technology responsibly? And are we equipping the human minds that use this technology to use it effectively? We are spending billions teaching silicon to align itself to produce incredible output. How much are we spending on the human mind, on the carbon anatomy that builds these technologies and will eventually use them? So I would want more focus on the human side of the equation within organizations. And we are seeing, by the way, the most savvy organizations are focused on that topic. And I've shared a number of examples through my writings over the last few weeks on this subject.
Well, living 100 yards from it, and that's not hyperbole, I literally live 100 yards from my front door to the fascia of that brand new building. And what the video doesn't do is give you a sense of the awesomeness of the scale of this building.
Yeah.
It takes your breath away. That's one aspect that's affecting me and my neighbors. Another aspect is the responsible usage. Will our neighbor across the street and all the others in our community be good stewards? Will they be responsible in how they use natural resources? Electrical load, certainly, but also water. What happens when there is a streak of hot weather? Are we going to be prone to more brownouts and blackouts? And so I'm glad you brought up the ethical usage part, because it's a conversation that informs our day-to-day lives. It's certainly informing my work fit. So more on that as we come. We've kind of run out of time, and Ram, we're going to bring you back in the fall, I know, and I know whatever topic we bring on is going to be truly amazing. Thank you so much for being on What's Your Work Fit. Before we get to the final question, if you would be so kind as to point our readers and listeners to where they can find you and Claudius on social media.
Easy. I'm accessible via LinkedIn, Ram Srinivasan on LinkedIn, and there are links to my website on there.
Right.
And Claudius is on Substack, and he publishes a newsletter called The Work Ahead. It is Substack, The Work Ahead Today, and free to subscribe.
Very good. I know we've asked you this question countless times, but it's interesting that the answers actually get more nuanced and shift. So I'm eager to know, Ram, what's your work fit? What attribute, condition, experience, place, or state of mind makes the work that you do a wonderful part of your day, doing other wonderful and meaningful things, and not the all-consuming time suck of a day? What's your work fit?
I think I've said this previously, Dan, and I think it's going to become more and more important going forwards. And the work fit from my perspective is autonomy. and the more autonomy that we have as individuals, the more we can exercise and bring our true selves to what we do. But the reason I'm saying this is going to become super important going forward is the age of traditional employment is coming to an end.
Absolutely.
And each one of us needs to think from an entrepreneurial standpoint, and we cannot do that if we're landlocked from all directions. So more autonomy for everyone.
I agree with you on autonomy. And to all those people who are stuck on the negative frame of AI is going to take my job, AI is going to bring you to something better. And I think is going to, like Ram says, serve your work fit attributes. So thank you so much. Gentlemen, this has been fun. Mark, I am so sorry you couldn't make it. We'll get you on next time. See everybody again next week.
Thank you.
Great. Good show.